it's exciting to talk about what I consider as one of my favorite topics to discuss. And I want us to do something very quickly. I want everyone on the call to just quickly tell me what you do and what you're hoping to learn from today's session. Because I like to make this session as practical as possible. So if you can just put it in the chat box, just tell me what you do, and technically maybe why you're here. I really want to know. Everyone is looking forward to learning today on this session. Interestingly, I mean, it's an opportunity for me to also learn something. In the session I took earlier in the week, I learned about somebody manufacturing some attachments in Nigeria, and it was exciting to hear that something like that was happening in Nigeria. So, okay, nobody's saying anything in the chat box. Aha. Okay. Thank you very much, Mrs. Akeju. Communication professional, looking forward to learning how to position a brand, product, service in the market, especially one already flooded with competitors. Awesome stuff. Right. Any other person? I'm going to try to be a bit, I'll just wait a bit more to see if we're going to get more entries. Any other person? Still waiting. Lewa. For women, chronic health problems in Nigeria. Hello, Lewa. Omo Lewa. I did me. Okay. Building a healthcare management service for women with chronic health problems in Nigeria. That's a very, very fantastic problem to solve. I've come to learn that a lot of attention hasn't been paid to the health of women across the world. So yeah, that's a fantastic thing you're doing there. Looking to learn how to apply brand strategies to healthcare. Fantastic. Like the sound of that. Okay. Any other person? Currently in business is the Kaya Suleiman. Currently business developer looking to perhaps get into entrepreneurship in the future. Hope to learn how to build a successful brand. Thanks for joining, Ezekiah. All right, we can keep that coming. I will share my screen now, and we'll get right into it. So, okay, the topic I have here today, I've been given, is to simply talk about mastering brand strategy and elevating your brand in a competitive market. At the beginning, I did say that, I'm excited about the opportunity to talk about a subject that I'm very passionate about. And, I remember at a point in my career, I like to introduce myself as someone who helped businesses to find uncontested market space. So, and of course, I'm a brand strategist. I've had the opportunity to do that. And so when I saw the topic, I was tempted to ask if somebody saw my old CV somewhere and just decided to give me something that really, really applies to me. So a little bit about myself. I'm a reputation manager, brand strategist, and marketing com strategist. I have about 15 years experience. And I've worked with brands and organizations across various sectors of Nigeria, Africa, and actually globally. Building brand strategies for oil and gas, real estate, financial services, and I'm very passionate about policy marketing. It's applying the principles of marketing comes to help, the effective implementation of government policies. I've helped, company build investor communications to raise money. And of course, I have some certifications. I'm going to tell you a story of a book that changed my life. And a significant part of what I'm going to be talking about today stems from that book, right? The title of the book is The Blue Ocean Strategy: How to Create Uncontested Market Space. I read that book, I think, in 2010. Sometimes I like to say 5 years late, but not too late. And it shaped my approach to branding, PR, marketing comms. And I'm going to be sharing some lessons from that, and those lessons are still very, very applicable to date. But let me tell you something that is very important, right? If you are with your phone and you are able to, or you're, joining this meeting from your laptop, data is very important, right? And you see why data is very important in the conversation we're going to have today. So I want you to just join the wait list for the Nigerian Consumer Outlook Report. It's the first of its kind report in Nigeria that looks into the consumer behavioral patterns of Nigeria. And you see why this is very important, Nigeria is one of the most misunderstood markets in the world. There's economic downturn, but Dirty December was extremely dirty, and then you're asking, was there really economic downturn? There's the extremely and ultra rich people in Nigeria, but at the same time, there's abject poverty in the land. But somehow, the richest Black man still managed to come from, what some have called the poverty capital of the world. So are these things true? What is true? What is not true? Some of them you will find out in this report. So join the wait list. Only people in the wait list will have access to the report for the first few weeks. So you might just want to join now. Now, what are we going to learn in today's conversation? We're going to learn what brand is, what a brand is, what branding is, and what they're not. We will learn about frameworks and strategies for building brand for positioning appropriately. And we would learn about elevating the brand in a competitive market. So let's dive right into it. So please, I would like us to I want this to be as interactive as possible. So I'll be going to the chat box for a while. I want to see responses and all of that. So what comes to mind when you hear the term brand or branding? So the average person, the average Joe, is usually logos, fonts, colors, have you. And I also know that a lot of people already know that it is more than that. But truly, what is a brand? So a brand is a promise of value. That's what a brand is. Simply put, actually, a brand is actually a promise. But in the context of our conversation today, a brand is a promise of value. And it's a promise of value on different levels. Intangible and sometimes tangible levels, right? Is how the brand makes you feel. That's not tangible. The experience the brand creates, that can be tangible, right? The story the brand tells is part of it. The culture of the brand. This applies to, the people working inside, the people working in an organization who are, who I like to refer to as the custodians of the brand. right? They shape what then comes out externally, right? And that's why sometimes some brands position themselves as A, but you have a B experience with them. So, a brand is also what differentiates you. Because if I do a blind test of Coke and Pepsi, you'll be so shocked at the number of people that will get it wrong, that will mix it up. But there's a differentiating factor. So, like I said at the beginning, what a lot of people see, colors, logo, fonts, sometimes people don't see the vision, the values of the organization, the message, the key messages, the personality, the strategy, the business strategy, the people strategy, how they want to be, the strategy behind how they want to be perceived, the brand voice and tone. Those are the things that make up a brand. But what is branding in itself as a practice? I like to say that branding is simple ideas with ruthless consistency. And there's a lot to unpack in this definition. If your ideas are not simple, ruthless consistency will be very difficult. If your ideas are not simple, it will be difficult to achieve ruthless consistency. And, I often, advise clients when we have to work on brand identity projects. And sometimes when a client wants a very complex logo, I'm very quick to tell them that what you are trying to do is not branding, because this option you are asking for, you want to go for, or this, change or changes, or the changes that you're asking us to make, they are going to significantly affect how consistent you can be. I mean, if this webinar or this was an in-person, there are certain questions I would have loved to ask, because if I ask everybody in the room now, without looking or asking anybody or overthinking it, if I mention the orange brand in Nigeria, I can bet that half of the room will tell me the brand that comes to mind is GT Bank. If I say, who is the yellow brand in Nigeria, most likely people will tell me MTN. But they're not the only yellow brand. They're not the only orange brand. They're just the ones that have been ruthlessly consistent with their own shade of yellow. And also, their shade of yellow or orange is not the only one that exists. So branding is a simple idea, simple ideas with ruthless consistency. You can't achieve ruthless consistency unless you build systems and processes that help you to deliver that. So if branding is simple ideas with ruthless consistency, and we've come to realize that it is also it is also a promise. It is the product. It is the feeling that people get, when they come in contact with the brand, right? We can then agree that you can't consistently deliver value if you don't build the systems and processes that can help you to consistently deliver value. I once had a training where I asked this very interesting question, and the question was, if you use an iPhone and you turned on the phone, and then you suddenly see the Nokia ants joining, or you suddenly see the Apple logo dangling through the screen, and then the next time you switch off the phone and you turn it on, you see the Apple logo maybe just hiding in one corner of the phone, I'm sure you are going to feel like you bought a fake iPhone. Why? Because your expectation is this is what is supposed to happen every time I turn on this phone. So when your customers, when stakeholders engage your brand, their experience is meant to be consistent on a positive gradient. So oftentimes, people have designed fantastic logos, their brand has fantastic colors, they stick to, the rules of the brand colors, the brand guide, but when it comes to the experience of the customer, there's no consistency. That is not branding. And that's not how branding works, right? Now, to let you know how valuable brands are, let's take a look at some very interesting brands across the world. What is the value of the Nike brand? And I'm not talking about Nike as a company. I'm just saying the brand. As you already know, the capitalization of a company like Apple is north of $3 trillion, right? But the value of the brand, in terms of this is the value this brand can command. Nike, 29 billion. Coca-Cola, 35 billion. Let me put this in context. The Nigerian Foreign Reserve, right, recently hit a $40 billion. So what you mean to tell me is Coca-Cola easily has close to the reserves Nigeria, or iPhone has more than 10x of what, the Nigerian Foreign Reserve. And trust me, the foreign reserve of a country like Nigeria is very important. So you can see that the value of a brand is very, very important. And this doesn't even mean that this is all they have. It's just how much value they can extract from the market just by their brand. It means if any of those brands decide to do any other thing, right? This is like, the average amount or the average valuation that you are going to see. So how do you develop a brand strategy? There are many ways and many methods, but there's this framework that we've developed at Seed. And the framework we have developed has worked time and time again, at least for the past 7 years. We've helped a lot of brands, to develop brand strategy. And it's a tripod approach to brand strategy: value, consistency, connection, and community. Connection and community, come together. The first thing is, like I said, the brand is not just the logo or the colors or anything. It's the value. What value do you deliver to the target audience or to the audience that you have selected or that selected you? What value? Sometimes value can be emotional, value can be tangible. When you look at luxury brands, the value is often intangible, is an exclusive value. But when you look at the value of a device or a gadget, it can be very tangible, because you can say, oh, this device is actually faster, or is more durable and all of that. But luxury is perception. Somebody wears it, or somebody makes it scarce. There are only 10 of it in the whole world. Only 50 of it was produced. So if you have one of it, then you must be special, and then I can command extra price for it. So value, very important. Consistency. This cannot be overemphasized. If you cannot deliver value consistently, you don't really have a brand in that, in the right sense of it. So you have to consistently deliver value. So you then need to build the framework, the system, and the processes that allow you to be consistent in how you deliver value and how you reach your audience. And that's why when you look at certain ads from a brand like Nike, it's almost seem to follow a very similar pattern, right? Connection and community. What bring people together is what they share. When you say, oh, this is a community exists because there's something they share. It could be a geographical location. It could be an experience. It could be a trauma. I'm sorry. Do you understand? That's why you have, communities of people who are going through a particular thing. So they are together not necessarily for pity parties, but to say, what did you do to make it work? How did you, and you have communities The world is filled with different communities: the Christian community, the mothers community, the single parent community, the grandparents community, the people that work in Lagos community, if there's anything like that, they are just got back community, the Nigerians in UK community. There's a power in community, right? And why do you need to factor this in? Look at a brand like Nike. The community that Nike decided to focus on the most is the community of athletes. So when you look at all their ads, the messages, they always route it through that community to reach a wider audience. If you look at Apple, they've always targeted the creative community, people who think that they are different. As far back as about 25 years ago, Apple has been singing, the music of our product is for only people that think different. So it is not happenstance that in today's world, there's a sense of pride, or at least in Nigeria, that people who use Apple products have. But guess what? It is not baseless. Are you getting my point? It is not baseless. Sorry, just give me a second. Sorry about that. So it is not baseless. Does the product deliver the value that it promises? Does the product deliver, what it has promised to deliver? Are the products durable? Do they stand the test of time? Things like that. So the framework that has worked is, so you need to ask yourself, if you run a business, even as a person, what is the value that I bring to the table? For example, I once said, I used to have, at different stages of my life, I had elevator pitches, right? And at a point in my life, the value I crafted for myself is, I am and at that point, I wasn't lying. I was at that point one of the very few Nigerians who had a very good experience of traditional media and digital media. And I knew that there was a gap in the market. There was a serious gap in the market at that time because, brands were struggling. They felt like the guys who were in the digital marketing space did not really understand the principles and, the theories of marketing communications, but they understood how the social media space worked. While the guys who are in the traditional media are kind of just stuck in their ways of how to manage traditional media. And at some point, that was the value. Consistency, I crafted a message and I consistently deliver value so much that if you engage me for a project, I'm going to show you the traditional media leg of that project, and I'm going to show you the digital leg of that project, right? Connection and community. I started to identify the communities that needed that type of service. It wasn't everybody. There were companies that were really struggling. There were corporate communication lead guys that this was a major headache for them. They were managing 3 to 4 agencies, and it was a big headache. I was sent to them, at least at that point, in my career, right? So just look at your own business and ask, what value do I deliver? How do I deliver this value consistently? And what community needs me right now? Or what community can give me the best out of all of this? I get my point. Now, let's take this further. I hope you're with me. Please, I'd like some reaction in the comment section. Now, there is no branding without brand storytelling. You've not effectively delivered a brand if people don't understand, the story behind the brand, the story of the community the brand is speaking to, the impact of the brand. And in telling brand story, you can't be tone deaf in telling your brand story. I was having a conversation with one of my team members earlier today. In April 2024, I recorded a video where I was talking about de-influencing as a concept, because I had predicted that the year 2024 will see an increase in de-influencing, right? And I'm sure a number of you are aware of the real estate guy who is going very hard on realtors and the real estate sector, letting them know that their houses are overpriced and all of that, right? No matter how fantastic you are, you can't be tone deaf to your community. And he said something in one of his videos that the reason some of the realtors are pricing their properties in USD is because it will not make any sense to say a property of 5, 6, 7 bedroom in Nigeria is worth 7 billion. Nobody, like, you know, it just doesn't make sense, right? And I was just saying that a lot of brands in Nigeria are actually tone deaf. They are either tone deaf or sometimes they are speaking to the wrong audience or they are doing the absolutely wrong thing, you know, they are meant to be doing. So connecting your community requires understanding their pain, desires, and culture. I'm going to be showing for the, you know, this meeting is one of the first set of meetings where I'll be sharing some of the insight that we've gathered from the Nigerian Consumer Outlook report, which is powered by Seed. Earlier in the week, I showed some part of it, and there's some part of what I'm about to show you that, you know, you are seeing for anybody seeing for the first time outside the team that's worked, you know, on the report. Let's look at the monthly income of the average Nigerian. 39.4% of Nigerians, or what am I saying? Almost 50% of Nigerians earn less than 100K. Almost 50%, right? And only 0.4%, a very microscopic few, I like to say, earn above 1 million. So when you sell a product or a service, or you're trying to position your brand as a luxury brand, for example, even though that word has become very bastardized, you know, in Lagos or maybe across Nigeria. To be very sincere, you are selling to a very microscopic few, very, very small niche. There was a report that said that there are less than 10 million Nigerians that can afford to spend 300,000 a month. There are less than 10 million. Now, does that mean that a lot of Nigerians are not enjoying their best life? No, because as you would see, there are differences in how Nigerians behave. So somebody can tell you that they earn 250,000 naira as salary, but they have a side business that gives them about 100,000 naira every month. But because they are not tracking that income, right? They are not tracking their profit and loss. They don't even know that they are making that much money. And it's one of the things that we've learned from this report, right? So you need to understand your audience very, very well. One of the challenges with branding is that the champions in branding globally are from the US. The US is a monster economy, if you allow me to say it, because the GDP of the United States of America is said to reach about 30 trillion naira, $30 trillion, I beg your pardon, this year. Let me paint a picture. The whole GDP of Africa is said to become 3 trillion or thereabout 2.8 trillion in 2025. Not even a tenth of the GDP. The GDP per capita of the US is in thousands. In recent document, the GDP of Nigeria is even less than $1,000. Why am I saying it? Disposable income of this environment are completely different. So how people perceive brands is different. Let's take a look at certain things. In our report, we found out that 45.7% of people believe what they see on social media. But here's where it gets more interesting. Traditional TV and radio is 20.6%. Word of mouth is 20.4%. It is okay to say that word of mouth is what we do on social media. So word of mouth is the biggest, not even call advertising. And you can see how the number reduces down. Now, Once you go above the age of 36, you'd see that word of mouth and traditional media starts to go. Why? Because word of mouth and traditional media is more believable for people who are above the age of 36 years. So it's important to understand all the dynamics of the market. I'm going to, just keep this and just, move on. It's very, very important. So don't enter or go into a market, or don't try to serve a market that you don't really understand the pain points of the market, how that, the people in the market, how they take decisions, how they make decisions, what influences, their purchasing pattern. I like to say at this point that brand storytellings are not fables. Yeah, they are not fable. they are not fables. They are, and they are not there they are not selling tools, right? Brand story, because that's another thing people have done. They've, in an attempt to tell a brand story, they've told lies. They've, cooked up stories that is far from true, and then they've now lost the trust of their audience. There are different levers, to brand storytelling. But it's important for you to first come to a place where you understand your why for your brand, and then you create a story around the impact of your brand. It's not about the data alone. It's how do you make people feel, especially in Africa, right? We are obsessed with progress, and that's why everything is luxury. Why? Because we have a growing middle class. Forget what people are saying that middle class is really dying. What is really happening is that people's disposable income are reducing, yes, but people's desire for the fine things of life is significantly increasing. So what it means is that the person is just waiting to blow. Like, we like to say it. Do you understand? People's disposable income are reducing, but their desire for the fine things of life is significantly increasing, right? So and two truths can coexist. So it's important for us to understand that you don't live in Banana Island today does not mean somebody does not want to live there. And there's an approach that you must take in brand storytelling if you're speaking to an audience that is very aspirational. The Nigerian market is very, very aspirational. So the key element of brand storytelling is to sell impact or benefits, not the features. So if you look at a lot of the big brands, and some of the very successful brands, they don't tell you all the technical jargons that is involved or all the processes, that they have to go through, they don't tell you that. They sell the story of impact. So a brand can choose to say, our brand employs 50% women, even in an industry that women are not given a chance. A brand can choose to say that we prepare you for the future. So I'm not telling you, the interest on the investment is 10% or is this percent. No, because there's always somebody cheaper. But why did you invest? The purpose of investing is because you want to secure it tomorrow. The purpose of investing is because you want to secure your child's education. So rather than sell the benefit, let me drag you in, or rather than sell the features, let me drag you with the impact that is going to have on your now and your tomorrow, right? And those are key elements of storytelling. I like to say, sell the whole, not the drill. So what is the impact of your service? What's the impact of your product? I often tell some of our clients, or when we're pitching, that the solution we bring to our client is to let them focus on the core of their business while we manage the exposure of their business for them. So we are not telling you, we provide, PR services, this service. And I can tell you, I'm not sharing with you something that I've read off the book alone, something that I practice. Most people have asked me why I refer to myself as a reputation manager. And I was like, it's easy for you to tell you, oh, I'm a PR professional. It's easy for you to say I'm an ad man. But that's not the value you get from engaging me. The value you get from engaging me is I shape your reputation. I position you in the right place so that you can get more money, so that your bottom line can feel the impact in the short, medium to long term. So I'm not just a public relations professional. I'm not just a marketing communication strategist. I am a reputation manager. I help ensure that you have the right reputation for you to get the things you want to get in the market. So I sell the old, not the drill. This is one of, the very fantastic way of selling the old and not the drill. In the early 2000s, right? Having a Walkman was one of the coolest things ever. But guess what? It meant that you needed to dub tapes. You then needed to carry maybe 2 tapes. You had to carry bags, put tapes in your bag, so that when you listen to side A and side B, just in case there are any Gen Zs on the call, you might not be able to relate. But yeah, some people had Walkman and they used to, take cassettes around. And then there were CDs, and then you needed to have a pack where you put all the CDs, different album mix, and all of that. And then you had to always go with that, right? And then Apple came with the iPod. And the real challenge in the market, and we're going to talk about, how to get to this place. So instead of telling people that, oh, we've released a device that has 5 gig memory or 2 gig memory or and all of that. It's like, no, the reason you will want 5 gig memory is so that you can store more songs. So you can store more pictures. So it's 1,000 songs in your pocket. And it was stellar. One of the most impactful products from, Apple, even before the iPhones, right? Now, what selling the old and not the drill does for you is that it makes you avoid price competition. But that's not the only thing that helps you to avoid price competition. Our topic speaks to how you can thrive in a competitive market, right? So what we're looking at here is what are the things you can do so that the reason somebody is buying from you is not because you are cheaper. It's okay to be cheaper. And you would see that it's okay to be cheaper, but you need to compete on a different level. So if you look at the Apple iPod here, it wasn't competing with the Walkman. It was creating a different experience, right? By saying, I know the challenges of using a Walkman. You have to carry CDs around. On this one, no CDs around. Just get 1,000 songs and it's in your pocket. You don't even have to carry a bag. No bag sack, where you have to put all the CDs, because of course, then you would be surprised how much of that even affected fashion. It affected fashion so much that they used to make jeans that was big enough for you to put in CD, packs in it, So I like to say that price competition is a race to zero. It's a race to zero. All of us, if you compete on price, what will happen is that something is going to have to give. Either the quality will reduce or you then start making a loss on whatever you're selling. So how do you elevate your brand in a competitive market so that you're not competing on price and so that you are well differentiated? The answer is the book I told you I read. At the beginning of this conversation, I told you I read a book and I learned a lot from it. The book is called The Blue Ocean Strategy. But the answer to this question is also implementing the Blue Ocean Strategy. And I've lost count of how many of these books that I bought because I like to gift to people. But this is an online class, so I'm unable to do that. But I want to tell you, buy this book. To me, one of the most important business books I've ever read in my life. I've read a couple, maybe not a lot, but I think I've read a couple, right? So what's the blue ocean strategy? It's a strategy that encourages business to move beyond battling competitors in an existing market and instead focus on creating a new market, which is called the blue ocean. Now, if we go back to the Apple iPod, what is very interesting is if you go down and research the history of this device, they were really not the first person to do something like this. But they sold it and they had a blue ocean, approach in mind. And we'll talk about some examples of how, little things can just bring you into blue ocean, into the blue ocean. The interesting thing about creating a new market, an uncontested market space, is solving a problem that people are not really talking about without significantly increasing the price. Because the price is not a factor. Let me give you an example of a general problem that I've come to realize that people have. One of the problems that people have in, let's use a country like the UK, is getting people to care for their child at a rate that is considered affordable, or having something that really, really works and is balanced, right? I think I'll be sharing somebody's business idea, so I'll stop at that. But let's come back to Nigeria and look at, examples of how people have solved market problems where pricing was not a factor. I want to talk about Paystack. When Paystack started in, I think, 2013 or 2014, two companies majorly could allow you collect payment online. I think it was InterSwitch and GT Bank. I think they were the two major well-known, brands that were offering it at that point in time. And it was going to cost you about 150,000 as a DAT to set up. Maybe GT was a bit cheaper. And Paystack came into the scene and said, oh, we're not going to charge you anything. Just set it up because, we'll get the money from your transactions. Now, what they've done is they are not trying to say, oh, we can do it cheaper than InterSwitch. Oh, we can do it cheaper than GT Bank. They just created a new method of getting paid because and guess what? The interesting thing about Blue Ocean is that it's not completely new. And you see some of the frameworks on how to create a Blue Ocean. It's not completely new. It's just the opportunity to find, a way to solve an existing problem. So charging on transaction was not new. The MasterCards and the Visas of this world were already doing that anyways. And it was a numbers game to say that instead of me, gatekeeping this access, and guess what? You pay that 150K and probably still wait for 3 to 6 weeks for your website to be integrated for payments. And they just changed it. Right. So let's look at some interesting case study. Marvel. Marvel today is the most valuable movie franchise in the world. In 2019, now here's the funny thing. In 1996, Marvel was bankrupt. $250 million. They were bankrupt. Marvels used to only make, comic books. That's what they were making before. Right? And of course, people started to come into that industry. And then in 1999, right, somebody, did a turnaround expert, was appointed as CEO, and it turned Marvel around and made it a $4 billion, company that was purchased by Disney. Disney, bought over, I think this was sometime in maybe 2005 or thereabout. I can't remember the year now. Disney bought it for $4 billion, right? Some of their movies are making a fraction of this now, you know. And guess what? They had categories. There was the category A Marvel character, and there's a category B Marvel character. I mean, because of time, I might not go into the detail. Category B Marvel character is Deadpool. You can Google it. Made stupendous money, allow me to say that, last year. What did they do differently? And how did they come into the blue ocean, right? Now, there is the blue ocean framework that, you know, allows you to, what do you eliminate? What do you raise? What do you reduce? What do you create? So for Marvel, they first like removed all the unnecessary costs. I often tell production guys, you know, I work with a couple of them, that it is not the size of your camera, it's the power of your story. Too many times, production guys are like, oh, it's a 6K camera, it's an 8K camera. Oh, this is the newest one, it can do this. I'm like, okay, where's the story you want to tell with it? What's the camera angle? What's the cinematography? So they eliminated all the bogus things, right? They reduced management. Of course, it looks like the normal, you know, cut down, but it's beyond just the normal, because this is what Red Ocean guys will do. You know, let's cut costs, let's cut costs. But beyond cutting costs, guess what they did? They raised creative culture. What kind of story are they telling? Instead of just telling story of people who can fight and all of that, they started to bring, oh, these guys who can fight, these characters that you like that are very strong, they have emotions. And that's why Orc can vex and expand and be as big as a 25-story building. But you can find Orc, you know, in a corner crying, because that's what is natural to humans. So you would see that beyond just, you know, doing the big things and saying, oh, this is the usual, you want to find unique ways of telling stories. You want to find that unique thing that the industry needs. Why do we go to the cinema? Do you understand? It's to watch something that is make-believe. But if a make-believe is too far from, that's why sometimes when you go to the cinema and something is too far-fetched from the truth, you are not sometimes very entertained, because it has taken you to, you know, there's thriller, but there's sci-fi. If I'm watching a sci-fi, let me know that I'm watching a sci-fi. If I'm watching a comic, I read it when I was young. So let me feel like you're not lying to me too much. Do you get what I'm trying to say? You know, what did they do? They also created a committee, you know, a creative committee, so that the story has, you know, a more rounded side. Unique financing scheme, yes. So the only thing you buy is not when you go and watch in the cinema. They have merch, a lot, key holders, shirts, even they have branded perfumes. They have loads of that. So they are financing. And why? When you see some of the framework that allows you to create this, what the reason why that worked for them is that they had an audience that knew them as a comic book. So what they are doing is it sounds like value innovation, but it's more value extraction. Is that I already have this audience that liked me when I was when they were 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Now they are older, they probably have kids, and that's why there's a way you can go from red ocean into blue ocean and then come back into a red ocean. Because I'm not sure the generation alphas really give, you know, much care about Marvel characters. But again, that's a task for the Disney guys to solve. That's not why we're here. Let's focus on our own business, right? So if these guys are growing, what are the things they need? They now buy perfumes for themselves. They have cars, they buy houses. So let's create, you know, mementos that they can use, right? And it kind of just changed the perspective from just creating only movies that the only way you can make money out of is from the cinema, and then decided to you know, make income from other areas. There's also Stitch Fix, right? As far back as 2019, Stitch Fix was using AI that is now like, you know, the buzzword, to create, you know, like a personal what's it called? Stylist service for women. And what was the result of this? They IPO'd, the youngest female CEO to ever IPO in the US, made a lot of money. Why? I'll tell you the problem that this solved. I'm sorry, with all due respect to all the women on the call, they never know what to wear. Like, do you understand? There's never something to wear. Why? Because there's a desire to look different. A man can wear the same thing every day and be fine. But that's not the makeup of women. So somebody found a solution. So instead of just selling clothes and saying, oh, Zara is like this, even though Zara, Next, and all the high street guy share the same designs, right? And just different labels. Somebody brought something new to the mix. What was new in the mix? Let's tell you, right? Like, I see your body shape. I see how tall you are. These are the preferences I know about you. These are the things you like. Yes or no? Yes. And then the next thing is that every time you want to buy, you just want to go to the person that gets you. Because for you, you just don't want to always buy the same type of dress. Not like some men. Do you understand? Wear the same type of kaftan, wear the same type of shirt every time. And they're okay with it. Right? So, what are some of the methods? I can't exhaustively, speak to all the methods of, creating uncontested. But there are a couple that I'll just touch on very, very quickly. Understanding the tiers of customers in your market. So there can be there's a, the customer of the industry. They know that, oh, everybody buys, what's it called? Skincare. Is skincare now, like that's the usual suspect, right? But there's soon to be customer. Who are those people that are soon to be customer? Who are on the edge of your market? They are waiting. Is it people who can afford, the present approach to skincare, right? Then there are the people who are just saying, no, I don't even need it. What am I skincaring? Like, I'm natural, I'm fine. What do they need? Then there's the people that nobody even know that they exist, right? So let me show you an example of how this has worked. And this sometimes works very well in the tech industry. Let me give you an example. Let's look at the CRM, customer relationship management software industry, right? The core market used to be the very big companies. They are the ones, because you feel like you're the one that have like 5,000 customers now. I only have like 100 customers or 50 customers. Why do I need CRM? Right? So they are very large, the 5,000 guys, the companies with, they have customers across the world, everywhere, the banks. Yeah, that's it. They know it's a must. I need to wish everybody happy birthday, happy new year. There's so much that I need to constantly talk to these people. So they are the usual suspects. But they are also the companies that are like supermarkets who feel like, do we really need to pay for this thing? Right? They are there. So they will soon tell whoever is providing them that service that we're not doing again. Then there are the ones that are saying, I'm not doing the salons, right? The nail stores, the spa. And then there are the people who said, I don't understand. I'm only selling on Instagram. What do I need, this for? So these are like small businesses and entrepreneurs, right? Guess who cracked the code in this industry? Zoho. So Salesforce used to be what everybody, the big guys were using, Salesforce. And because Salesforce, you need to know how to use Salesforce. You need to have enough support to be able to use Salesforce. It's a very complex, software to deploy. So you must have deep pocket to be able to use it. And it's not cheap either ways, right? So Salesforce was the one servicing the industry leaders, right? Then Zoho came into the mix. And Zoho is saying that we're not expensive. We're going to service small businesses. How do you want to buy? Don't worry, if it's only one license you want to buy, we'll sell to you. And guess what? Zoho has reached over 50 million customers as at 2020. I can imagine what the number is like now. Okay, as at 2022, 80 million customers across the world. Zoho did not raise investor funds. It's a company that was bootstrapped. I dare say that there are even banks that have divided, their assets now. Some of their assets is sitting on Zoho, right? Doesn't mean that Salesforce is not still there, but even Microsoft is worried about Zoho right now. So value innovation is the cornerstone of growth. So you're probably wondering, how did You know, a lot of these companies come about it, and what's the framework for achieving this? Let me show you some. Value innovation is, how do I ensure that I can reduce costs, right? I can increase the perceived value of the buyer, because at the intersection of reducing cost and perceived value is value innovation. Let me give you a very interesting case study. I had a client who was really, really battling with product development at some point. The challenge was that it was difficult to find somebody that understood development of product and can also market it. So the problem was that first of all, because there's scarcity of that, skill, the skill is very expensive in the market. And they needed that value. So at some point it was like, okay, what do we do? How do we present more value to this client beyond what they ask for? Because sometimes the client, what they want is not what they need. So for us, it was a matter of, let's look at what this client is saying they want. How do we find the nexus between what they want and what they need? Because for us, that is where value innovation happens. Because if I give you more than what you're asking for, you are likely to pay me what you have, but I'll be able to get more from you. So you wanted to, for the purpose of this conversation, I'm not going to disclose real figures, but let me just use an analogy. You wanted to spend 1 million to get a product manager, and another, let's say, 800,000 to get somebody that will be in charge of marketing. Can I provide the service of a product manager, a marketer, and also business strategy so that you can pay me 2 million? Because you are going to do the business strategy anyways. So the intersection between, so what I've done is that if you are going to do business strategy, probably going to cost you another 1 million. Again, so your total cost of what I'm delivering to you would have been what? 3.5. But I'm asking you to give me 2.5, because for me, I can drive down cost. How? Because I've built a system that allows me to do the work you are asking for faster than you'll have done it. I have a framework. I've shared one of my framework with you today, right? We have a lot of framework that we use at Seed that allows us, like we're having a conversation with an international client, and I was just saying to them, you guys are not going to allow us move at the speed we want to move, but we have a way to make it work. When we deploy the way, you will see the result. And when we did, they saw the result. So that I'm not giving too much of my sales secret. I don't know who is on the call, but I mean, I'll be more than happy to answer questions so that just in case people want to, understand how this applies to their business, I'll more than, but let me stop there to say it's something you have to constantly think about. How can I offer more value without spending more? And I will show you that there are some Nigerian brands that are doing it. I've talked about Paystar. I'm going to share more. That how can I offer more value? What is the value that the customer desires so much? How can I offer that more value and reduce cost? I have a very interesting example, and we'll get to it very shortly. So this is the 4-action framework. What factors should be raised well above industry standard? I mean, I would like to again tell you some of the things we've done. For some of our clients, one of the things that we've done is that we are a PR company, or we're a company that offers PR services. We understand your market. I often tell people, I will never service a client that I don't understand their market. I will tell you the issues people are facing in your market. How? Research. And let's be very sincere, I will draw more from the value because it then becomes a resident knowledge. So for example, I've done a lot of work in my career in the oil and gas industry and the finance industry. When I speak about the oil and gas industry, you think that okay, I work in the industry now, I would like to say, but you would think that, I've always known it, but it was not always like that. There were things that I invested in learning, and I would say that it's more of investment of time, just ensuring that you're reading, you're calling people to ask questions. About 4 years ago, we had the opportunity to work in the power sector. It was the same framework. Call people that have worked in the sector before, call journalists, call financial people and say, what is the problem that people are facing in this sector? What do you think are the solutions? So I know where the shoe is pinching my clients. And so when I write articles, when we develop campaigns for them, we're not developing campaigns like outsiders. We're developing campaigns like insiders, people who understand their business. And that's what we raise. That's what is above industry standard. Because the average thing in the industry is that you ask the client to write for you and you help them distribute. We now write for the client and ask them to review. And half the time, we're probably even doing a better job than their corporate comms department. What do you eliminate? Which factors that the industry has long competed on should be eliminated? I don't know if I should say this, but I don't like project fees. I don't like project fees because project fees is tied to the amount you want to spend. I don't like it. A lot of our competitors charge project fees. They will say, oh, it's supposed to be 10% or 15% of the total amount. No, this is the value. What do you want to achieve? This is what you want to achieve. This is my service fee. If I don't achieve it, this is what should happen. And we'll put all the factors of success in there. It might not always work, but I don't like it. Because if you wake up tomorrow and say, oh, you wanted to spend 40 million. So 10 or let's say 20% of 40 million is 8 million service fee. And then you say, oh, management has slashed payment to 20 million. I'm still going to do the same amount of work. So that's something that we kind of try to eliminate. Once in a while, we try to sneak it in, but I'm not pumped. If I ever put it there, I'll tell you it's for taxes purposes. I'm not, that's not where the earnings come from, really, for me. What did we create? That we created something that the industry never offered. At the beginning, majority of the people could not handle both traditional and, digital. We did both. That's something that we kind of pioneered, right? Not like, I don't like to refer to it as a one-stop agency, but an agency that understand both sides. But there are not other things that we are creating, but I'll not let the cat out of the bag. So we create new values. Even the way we service our clients, it's kind of new. The way we deal with employees is kind of new, right? When I tell people that we do 2 days in the office, we run an hybrid system, 2 days in the office, 3 days out of office, and we've been doing that since COVID. People are sometimes surprised. It's no longer new because there are now a lot of companies that are doing it, but we were one of the first sets to do 2 days on site, and it's deliberate because creatives need social interaction sometimes to recharge. So that's one of the reasons why we do 2 days, right? And we'll continue to just refine. What have we reduced? We changed our structure. So most of our competitors will have, what I'll call like a flat structure. We have a cyclical structure. So irrespective of the department where you work, you know what is going on in other departments. And you have a fair idea. So we kind of find it easy to move people around within the organization. So we didn't eliminate, the structure. We made it fluid, dynamic, and it's in a cyclical manner. I'll stop at that for now. So let's look at some interesting case studies in Nigeria. Jumia Food and Chowdeck. As you probably know, Jumia Food is out of the picture now. Guess what? Chowdeck is probably doing over $1 billion in a month in revenue, right? So what's the blue ocean here? Let's go back to our framework of value innovation. Increase buyer value, reduce cost. How did Chowdeck increase buyer value? When you order for food, what is one of the most valuable things that you're expecting is quick delivery. That's one of the most, the reason you rather go to a restaurant to buy yourself is because sometimes you don't believe that delivery will come in time. Chowdeck, really fixed that. Let me put it that way, because I once spoke to somebody, who works at Chowdeck. His KPI was to ensure that food was delivered in 15 minutes. Anybody's order was delivered in 15 minutes. I know that has changed. But that's why I said you can go from red ocean to blue and all of that. But that's somebody's KPI, right? Guess how they reduce cost? While Jumia Food was asset heavy, buying a lot of bikes that, after 1 year, the cost of maintenance is probably equal to the cost of buying a new one. Chowdeck decentralized deliveries. How? If the distance is below, I think, 5 kilometers, it's bicycle. If it's above 5 kilometers, I think that's when you then use bikes, right? And they didn't buy the bikes. They are onboarded people, allow people to get finance to buy the bikes, but they did it. How? They become asset light. When you are asset light, your overhead reduces, but the value they've delivered increased. And guess what? They shared the profits. If you use bicycle, the cost of delivery is cheaper. So if you use the bike, the cost of delivering with the bike is probably direct, maybe 500. So maybe they will charge you an extra 300 on top. With a bike, it's human stress. It's indirect. But guess who is getting the money? The guy who's riding the bike. He doesn't have to buy fuel. He just has to eat. And of course, have strong legs. It's probably even exercising. So they drove down the cost, but they increased the value because now your food gets to you quicker. You can track, on their app how soon the food is getting to you. So you have to constantly think about how you can drive down cost and increase value. I've talked about Quick Teller, which is InterSwitch and Paystack earlier, right? So it's important, even after you've crafted your Blue Ocean strategy, you need the systems and processes to be able to consistently deliver that value, because the experience of your customers are absolutely important. So promise what you can deliver, right? And constantly and deliberately work towards delivering that. Take feedback so that you can get better at it. Like I said, people can go from red ocean to blue ocean and back to red ocean. You have to constantly get better, and people will copy you. So if you don't constantly get better, you will lose your blue ocean. Always improve and meet spoken and unspoken needs of your customers. I'd like to stop there for now. I like to say this: what got you here won't get you there. So keep working. Thank you very much. I'd like to take questions and, make this a more practical class. So if you have questions, hi, Dupe, I don't know how this is usually done. If you want to moderate it, how we can go about it. But I think it's a good place to take questions.
Okay.
Awesome.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. So for the questions, we encourage you to use the raise hand feature so that we can call you to ask your question. While if you can't speak, you can use the chat box. Thank you very much. So please, I noticed someone unmuted the mic. Can you use the raise hand feature, please? Hello, can anyone hear me? Okay, we have Alabi. Over to you. You can unmute.
Hi. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Okay, I think I can turn on my video. My video's off. Okay, I don't have this time. So my name is Akeju. It's good to be here, and it's good to be listening to Oga Boss. Thank you so much for all that you have shared. So, um, what I came to learn, that was the first question you asked us to why we here and all of that, is to build the you is to build a brand and build brand visibility and of course um, accessibility to customers. And but you said certain things that got me thinking. Of course, I'm seeing how fast I can get back to the drawing board with my team. um you talked about consistency, and for you to have, I mean, ruthless consistency, and for you to have that, you have to have processes, you have to have systems. And I think that's a part where that's like a blow to me. Okay, how do we build this? Do you want to talk? Can you share light around that angle
Okay.
for a brand like mine? It's a training, um consulting, like a consulting. We run services. We don't have physical product that we take from one place to the other. If you understand. And of course, our visibility has actually increased in the last 3 years. Glory to God. But how do you go from the last slide was another strike? What got you here will not get you there. I know where I want us to get to, but currently this is where we are. So how do we get to that place where we need to get to?
Thank you very much for that question. It's a very, very familiar question. I think, and the way I always like to answer it is, physical products are produced in a factory, right? So it's manufacturing most of the time. It's a manufacturing process. It means that there are rules that were set in the manufacturing. So I have a cable manufacturing client. So it means that you have to set out the copper. The copper needs to be drawn. There are certain settings you need to put on the machine for it to be drawn. There is a process, that it goes through for the products to be produced, right? And then sometimes services think that we don't have that. We actually do. So if you provide a service, it means somebody is going to contact you. When the person contacts you, how do you receive the person? What form is the person filling? How do you analyze the need of that person to say that this is what you've asked for, but this is what we think you need, but we can provide all of this to you? How do you then, what's your pricing model and process? So we already do these things. We have just not properly thought through it. So I'll give you an example, right? Brand identity project is something that I used to do a lot of, let me put it that way, and I'll stop there. But I had a process for doing it. The process is, if you ever come to meet Seed and you say, oh, I have this new business I'm starting, I want to do ABC, you are going to go through a process. The process is, there's a questionnaire. You are either going to fill that questionnaire, and here's where it gets very interesting. And this is the major reason why I'm using this example. When we discovered that clients usually struggle to fill the questionnaire, so what we do is we'll send it to you. That questionnaire is part of our process. And what is also very interesting is that we discover that anytime we skip that part of our process, we always run into trouble. It's either we don't quickly get the client to select options, or the client is disgruntled, or the project takes longer than expected, and things like that. So no problems. You can't feel it, no problem. Let's set up a call. We'll send it to you first so that you have read it before the call. Even if it's 5 minutes before the call, no problem. You've read it. We get on the call. We ask you those questions. Those questions are built to allow us know your preferences and some psychological things about you, because it's like a psychometric question. I'm going to ask you things like, if your brand was a city, what city is it? If it was an animal, what animal is it? You get my point? If it was a car, what car is it? Right? There are lots of things that I'm checking for. It's like a 15, questionnaire, right? No pun intended, right? And it was a process. So when we do that, then we share with you, right, options. There was a process that we had for doing it. And we still have that process. And we kept, like I said, improving on the process. So if you deliver a service, You need to have those processes. And here's the interesting thing, I'm trying to remember the name of the author that said it. We don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems. So you need to then put a system in place that checks those things to say, oh, we have a 5-step process for training, right? Before you even pay. Do you understand? There's a 5-step process before you pay. Because once you've collected somebody's money, you are kind of committed to that person already, so to speak. So you are checking before an invoice is sent, for example, right? In this case, to say, have we asked what this person needs? Has the person taking this as free test and all of that? And guess what? When you have processes for services, people actually value you more. That's one of the things I've discovered. When I came last year, I asked this person to do this thing. I followed this process. I've come this year, I'm trying to jump the process, and the person is almost saying no. So for us, in the example that I gave, you want to jump the questionnaire. I'm not going to proceed. Do you understand? I'm not even sending you an invoice yet. Like, you have to. Or even if I've sent you the invoice, when I was sending you the cost proposal, I have put the processes in place that these are the things that will happen. This is how we are going to run through it. But that's the process. What is the system? The system is usually the check and balances that you've put there. And the check and balances checks you sometimes, because you need to also allow people around you to know that the rules does not exist only for them. Do you understand? And then you are also open to say, oh, this didn't work. So when we're sending the questionnaire to people and they were not filling it, something needs to give. And that's how we came up with the option of, okay, you know what, let's jump on a call and have a conversation. And that way, in that conversation, it was even better, because now you now get to understand how the person thinks, what the person wants, what the person is thinking. There's a lot that you're going to get to learn when you engage people on that level. So for businesses, you have to develop a process. And one of the easiest way to do it is just think about your customer journey. Be obsessed with creating value across all the touch points of your customer journey. So what is the usual way people come to you? Do they reach out to you via LinkedIn? Is it usually through referral? Is there, how do they usually reach out to you? Okay, so let's assume that they usually will reach out to you via referral, right? So, oh, somebody told me that you offer this, oh, thank you very much, and all of that. Okay, can we jump on a quick call to understand what your needs are? I'm speaking hypothetically. I don't do trading, so you understand your industry better. And then you jump on the call to say, okay, this is this person's experience. This is what they are looking for. This is the problem they are trying to solve. The person that recommended or referred the person might ask them to go for a course that they went for, because that course worked for them. But by the time you speak to the person, you say, no, this is not the course you need. The course they need might be cheaper, and it's fine. Do you understand? Because that's also how you build trust. I'm not selling to you only because, I want to collect your money. I'm selling to you because I want to deliver value. If I deliver value, you will pay me. And I often like to say the reward for good work is more work. So, do you get my point? So, I will get more money out of you. It's a matter of when, not if. You get what I'm trying to say? So you do that, and then, okay, now that I understand what you need, okay, you need to fill this form. This is the point where you pay. This is how the class is going to, this is the processes of our class. Do you understand? Because sometimes it is the customer that didn't allow you to deliver value to them, but they are the ones that will still complain. So you need to put the systems in place that is checking both of us, so that when the system is there, it has checked you. When you say, oh, you've not delivered value, I said, but you didn't come to class 4 times now. You came only twice. How were you expecting to learn everything? It's not my fault, but I told you. Do you understand? But we told you from the get-go that you needed to do 4 classes. Oh, we told you that you needed to do this thing. I'm not saying it to accuse you. I'm just saying, if we follow the process, you will get the outcome. It's like garbage in, garbage out. I hope that's been able to. And to talk about what got you here will not get you there. One of my principles in life, or guiding principles in life, is that there are no middle grounds. You're either dying or you're growing. There are no middle grounds. So what got you here will not get you there is that if you are at a particular level in your life and then you become complacent, I'm sorry, you're already regressing. You thought, there's this thing that I always say, the day you lost the client is not the day the client, it's not the day you lost the client. or the day the client leave is not the day you lost the client. There have been a lot of things that have been happening that you didn't pay attention to. So if you are obsessed with constantly growing, when something that, you know, does not align with what you're trying to achieve happens, you nip it in the bud. You say, no, that's not how I want my client to feel. So I'll fix it. Does that mean that everybody will stay? No, because one of your signs of growth is when some people leave, because they are no longer the type of client you want to engage with. Do you get my point? So what got you here will not get you there is a reminder that we need to just constantly grow. I hope that was helpful. All right. Thank you. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. The
But
next person is...
okay. I still have one more question, if I have the opportunity. Or should I wait for other people?
You can proceed so that you
Okay,
can move to the
thank you.
next person.
Thank you, I appreciate it. So you talked about branding being a simple idea with a ruthless consistency. So so because of what I do, different concept and all of that. So I have this idea of present to do a training, as a matter of fact, to help certain community, like you mentioned. My You have not read my introduction. Maybe when it's time you already. I- um my training is around mental health, and mental health, stress management, suicide, and all of that. And in the last 5 years, let's say, if you look at the cases of suicide in Nigeria, let's put it that way, especially in Lagos, it's not really among the boys on the street that doing everything to survive. It's around a certain class of people, certain community, and these are the people. These are the people. They will not. They will. You have to get a way to get them. So I know I have product, services, training to equip them to increase their survival instinct or rate, or to make them to handle stress in a better way than what we have been saying. I know this product will work if given the enabling environment. So I have this idea to talk, bringing C-level managers together, give them, put this training across to them. So that's an idea. So how do I, as a brand, how do I get it out there? I'm struggling. I will open up to you. This is a struggle for me.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I'm smiling because I can totally understand, the challenge you're facing.
Thank you.
And the solution is in plain sight, right? So you understand that this class of people, they are the people that everybody think that they are okay, right? Because they have money, they are doing well, right? So what's the big deal? But that's where the solution is. If everybody thinks you're okay and you're doing well, it means that you can't openly tell people you have problems. So the solution is to give them an opportunity to anonymously reach you. So create a platform where you are telling the person, I don't want your name, I don't want your email address, I just want you to talk. That's it. Or ask them to create an alias. Create a system that allows them to create an alias, right? I can only reach you when you allow me to reach you, but I don't want to know who you are, for starters. Because when you look at, you understand this very well. The first thing people do in therapy is to establish trust. That's the first thing, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. If you are going to be somebody's therapy, the person needs to trust you that either that you can solve the problem or something. Do you get my point? Right?
Absolutely.
Exactly. So how do you establish trust with somebody that you've not met before? Tell the person that I don't even want to know you. I just want to know what you're going through. And then subsequently, or what you can do is to reverse engineer that process. Reverse engineer the process by creating stories that you've heard or that you've encountered and put it out there without mentioning, and you don't mention the person, anything that can make people guess, right? Take it out, because you also don't want people to feel like you are going to use their story and people are going to get what's wrong with them. Do you get my point? You are just facing the problem. You are just fixated on the problem, you know, because the real reason these people are facing what they are facing, at least on the surface. I mean, there's another side to what is happening, but let's face the, you know, the surface thing, right? Is that it's difficult for them to talk. If they go to any therapist, somebody saw them driving in, the receptionist that did not sign the non-disclosure can go and release it and say, so person that is going through mental health issue.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
you just need to make it as anonymous as possible. Guess what? At some level, you are going to provide the cars that will pick people up for the service, because that's how discreet it has to be. Do you understand? It has to be so discreet. The car is tinted. It's tinted all through. You can't see anybody inside. Do you get my point? And you're not going to have one, because after you, people will know that that's the car that those people used to use. Do you get my point? You know, they can go through that calls, you know. So what you want to sell is the ability, is that once you sell the discrete, you reach those people. Nobody wants to come into the room of their C-suite level and say, oh, I'm having suicidal thoughts. No, at that level, people don't really talk. So I hope I've answered your question. I don't know if there was any other parts of that question that I left out. Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
Basically, I'm fine.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Because of time, let's move to the next person. Ajibola, over to you.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yes, sir. So I just want to quickly mention before I ask my question that I was in your class the last time, and you mentioned something about keeping in touch with customers, and I took an action on that. I have a customer that has bought 6 braided wigs over the years, and has referred her sister and 2 of her friends, and those 2 friends have referred people too, you know. So she had her birthday recently, and we wished her as a brand. So I sent her a little love package, and it was very asked for me. She really, really appreciated it. So that came from that knowledge, and I want to say thank you, sir.
Awesome.
So my question today is about storytelling. You said there's no branding without the brand storytelling. So the thing is, I have a story. I believe I have a story, and that story comes from passion. You know, that even when the profit was very low, you know, there was still this drive to satisfy customers. So that story comes from the passion to make people see that, okay, African hairstyles can be very classy and beautiful, and without you wasting your time at salons, and also without you damaging your hair health. What I mean. So recently I started seeing another side of story that I can push out there, and the story is, you know, like the fact that I've had many customers in the diaspora, like Nigerians living in diaspora recently. So I'm seeing another storyline that comes from my customers. So my question is, does it have to be my personal story, or can I have a brand storytelling even from my customers, from the view of my customers, and it's not feeling like I'm telling a lie or I'm giving people fables?
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Very interesting question. I have a couple of things to say. I'm trying to figure out where to start, so I'm just going to start. So in no particular order. First thing, your brand storytelling is not about you. It's about your customers. It's not about you. So it's about your customers, right? Fables are like cooked up stories, right? But the beauty of storytelling, when you read a novel and they say it's fiction, is that when it comes to the scientific part of that story, they are not lying. So they say, oh, the car was moving at 160 kilometers per hour in a fiction novel. Can a car move at 160 kilometers per hour? Yes. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So to tell the brand storytelling, to do a proper brand storytelling, it has to be a story of impact on your customers. For example, people have moved to the diaspora, but they are rootly connected to their culture. Part of their culture is their hairstyle. So that's what you're doing. You're keeping them rooted. And you're doing it at a cost that doesn't break the bank, because part of the challenge of staying rooted to your culture is that it's more expensive than perhaps maybe the other options you have, right? So that story is not you, is the story of the customer. Is there a time to tell your own story? Yes. Usually, your own story comes into the picture, usually when you're trying to raise finance. And that takes me to the point that you also don't want to tell your story too early. And what do I mean by that? Don't create a demand you can't fulfill. So is it okay to tell your story? Yes. But do you think because usually, and I think I mentioned this in the other class, that above the line activities, right, is when you've maxed out your immediate network. I often like to say that you've maxed out your third degree network. Then you want to become more aggressive about above the line, right? Don't just spray so much in the dark when you can only service 100 people. But guess what? You can start with the building blocks of your story. So you can tell the story so much that by the time you want to take it above the line, people are already very familiar with the story, because it's no longer like a story. It's no longer like a cooked up story. Let me put it that way. It's so genuine that people feel like, yeah, she has always been doing that. She has always told us how the people in diaspora feel very connected to their roots. They're still Nigerian, what they appreciate about it. Jonathan, you're selling the old and not the drill, like I said earlier, right? So you can't tell the story of the customers, but you are just telling it in a, you are telling it in a way that it doesn't create a demand that you can't fulfill. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say there.
Sir, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so we hear from the last person, the person on Bankola.
Okay, good day, sir.
Good afternoon. If you're speaking, you're muted.
You can hear me now, sir?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, my question is, let's say as a person starting out like just trying to build a business or like building a startup in that sense, right? How important is brand storytelling? And like as I'm a one-man team, like I'm more focused on the product. How do we now bring building the brand or doing the brand storytelling and building the product? Because your main focus is, I want to build this product, I want to get it out there. How do we do that and say, oh, I want to build the brand, I want to tell stories about the brand? Like how do I factor that in with the building of the product and all of that? So that's my question, sir.
All right. Thank you very much for that very interesting question. I've often been accused of speaking very, very extempore, so I'm fine with taking questions. So the first thing I'm going to tell you is there's a book called Start with the Why. I think it was written by Simon Sinek, right? I think you should get the book because you're already building the brand. If you're working on a product, you're already building the brand because a brand is a promise. So what's the promise of the product? What are you promising, the users or the soon-to-be users, right? So why are you even going on this? And I don't mean to sound very philosophical, right? But you must be obsessed with the problem and the solution that you want to provide for your customers. You have to be obsessed. Like is one of the things that you can't get tired if you're obsessed. And what I mean by that, of course, you're human, you can get tired, but you can't be tired of being obsessed about providing a solution or solving a problem. you're going to continue to nip at it and say there has to be a better way to do this. Yes, I'm already solving the problem, but there has to be a better way to, to do this, because that's the backbone of a strong brand. So you're already building the brand, right? Now, if you have a good product, you've only sort of gone halfway. You still have to ensure that the good product gets into the market. And branding is a significant part of that. If you remember at the beginning of the conversation, I talked about the yellow brand GT, the orange brand GT, the yellow brand MTN. The reason is because there's marketing, there's advertising, there's PR, there's above the line, there's below the line. They've done a lot in the marketing, right? So you're going to have to do that. But just imagine, for example, GT has not been holding up to a side of their promise when it comes to banking these days, right? That's not good branding anymore, if you get what I mean. So people know the brand, but they are starting to know the brand for the wrong reasons. So you get what I'm saying? What I'm trying to say here is that if you build a good product, it won't sell itself. And let me give you another example with GT. Do you know? So if I talk about USSD banking today, I can bet you majority on this call will say *737, right? That's the power of branding and aggressive marketing. What a lot of people don't know is that GT was not the first to introduce USSD in this country. They were probably maybe the third. So if you build a nice functional product and you do not push it in the right quarters, I'm sorry, you might not be able to extract a lot of value from it. And to tell you the power of a good product and a good brand, GT is one of the most valuable financial brands in Nigeria, if not one of the most valuable companies in Nigeria. When you look at the cost of sales of other banks and you look at the cost of sales of GT, I don't have the right figures, but GT is way more valuable. So it feels like the money the investors put in GT is giving them more returns than other banks. So build a solid product, but do some good branding and marketing to get it out there. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. I guess we don't have any other question.
All right.
We'd like to hear your last words to the participants before we round up the webinar.
All right. I'd like to say, first of all, thank you to everyone that joined. Interesting conversation. As somebody that speaks extempore, trust me, I was learning myself. What I would say is maybe you have a physical product or you provide a service or you're a career person, be a person of value consistently. If you look at all the conversations that we've had today about branding, about Blue Ocean strategy, one of the recurring theme is value. So constantly be a person of value, irrespective of what you do. And yeah, the reward for good work is more work, and with more work usually comes more money, usually. Thank you very much.